Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as you can see here that today we are going to start the discussion over the parliament. Alright, and basically in this particular series of the parliament that we are going to start right now, we have scheduled these topics for the discussion, like the introduction part, what is the organization of the parliament, composition of the two houses, because we know that the Indian parliament is based on the bicameralism. Okay. Thereafter, system of elections to the Lok Sabha. What's the duration of two houses? How to get the membership of parliament? Who is the presiding officers of the parliament? Leaders in the parliament? Sessions of parliament? Devices of the parliamentary proceedings? Legislative procedure in parliament? Joint sitting of two houses? Budget in parliament? Multifunctional role of parliament? Ineffectiveness of parliamentary control? Position of Rajya Sabha? Parliamentary privileges and sovereignty of the parliament. So here you can see that there are total 18 topics in this series that we are going to start, and these 18 topics we will see one by one. Okay, and this is going to be a very important session from the examination point of view. Okay, because if we talk about the you can say the value of this topic in the exams, then we know here we are talking about the India, and India is the world's largest democracy, right? And this world's largest democracy is basically works on the book which we called as a constitution. Okay, and remember that the constitution by itself could not be implemented. Okay, because constitution only contains the provisions for rules and regulations. It does not contains the rules and regulations by itself. Okay, so we required a particular organization which could use these provisions and make the rules and regulations for the governance of this country in which we are living in. So that particular organization about which I was talking was the parliament. Okay, so India is the world's largest democracy and parliament is the powerhouse to that democracy. So that's why it's become important to know about the parliament, and you can say to discuss about the parliament in a proper manner. All right, so let's start with the introduction. So the first thing here you can see the parliament is the legislative organ of the union government. Okay, if we talk about the organs of government, or we can say organs of governance. Okay, organs of governance. So basically there are three organs. First organ is legislative organs. Second one is executive organs, and the third one is judicial organs. Okay, so we know that the legislative organs are responsible for using the provisions to make the rules and regulations. The executive organs are the organs which implement those rules and regulations which have been drafted by the legislative organs, and judicial organs having the responsibility to check the validity of executive actions and even validity of rules and regulations provided by the legislative as per the Constitution of India. All right, so this is the general work division of these three organs which altogether makes the organs of governance, and you can say the structure of the governance. All right, so basically here we are going to talk about the legislative organs. So let's start with it. So if we talk about it, it occupies a preeminent and the central position in the Indian democratic political system. Okay, Because we know if we talk about the India, so India having the federal structure provided for the two levels of government, central level and then comes the state level. Got it? So basically at the center level we have the parliament as the legislature. Okay, due to adoption of the parliamentary form of government, also known as Westminster model of governance. Okay, like we have talked about, if we take the consideration of the federal structure. So federal structure provides for the two divisions of the government, usually like the central level or the state level. And basically we know at the central level there are two types of governments: parliamentary and then presidential. Okay, so these are the two forms of the governance. And basically if we talk about the salient features of the Indian Constitution, which we were discussing, so basically we had discussed that there are two constitutions in the world, like the British and then the American. American here is not comprised about the American continent. American means United States of America. Okay, and British means Britain. Okay, like these two constitutions having a great influence on our constitution. All right, and this form of the governance at the center level about which we are talking right now, it also empowered from one of these two constitutions, and the constitution is the Constitution of Britain. Okay, like we had discussed, the Britain having the parliamentary form while the United States of America having the presidential form. So we know in India we having the parliament, it means that we are influenced by the Britain system, and that's why it is known as the Westminster model of government. There are total Article 79 to Article 112 in the part 5th of the Constitution that deals with the several things, like what is the organizational structure, what is the composition, what is the duration, who are the officers, what is the procedures, what are the privileges and powers, and so on regarding the same thing, which is the parliament. All right, thereafter if we move forward, so we can say under the Constitution the Parliament of India basically consists of three parts: the President, the Council of States, and the House of the People. Okay, so if we talk about the Council of States, so in Hindi it is known as the Rajya Sabha. Okay, and if we talk about the House of the People, so in Hindi it is known as the Lok Sabha. Okay, the Rajya Sabha is the upper house and it is a second chamber or House of Elders. Why it is called as the upper house? Because it could not be dissolved. Okay, and the Lok Sabha is the lower house, first chamber of the popular house, and it is called the lower house because it could be dissolved. Okay, can't dissolve. All right, the former represents the states and the union territories of the Indian Union, while the later represents the people of India as a whole. Okay, so the President of India is not a member of either House of Parliament and does not sit in the Parliament to attend its meeting. He is an integral part of the Parliament. Okay, so remember that there is a division of Parliament into the three heads: the first head, the second, and the third. The first head stands for the President of India. The second head stands for the Rajya Sabha or House of States, and the third head represents the Lok Sabha or house of people. Okay, so this is the general division. If we talk about the upper and the lower house, so remember, Rajya Sabha is the upper house, because it could not be dissolved, while the Lok Sabha, known as the lower house, because it could be dissolved by the presidential orders. All right, and the president is not a part of either house, he is a integral part. Okay, so that's why he is not indulged in any of these houses, and he is not required to sit and speak and take the part in the parliamentary proceedings either in Rajya Sabha or in the Lok Sabha. Okay, thereafter, if we talk about the integral nature of the Indian president, so this is because a bill passed by the both houses cannot become a law without the president assent. All right, so we had discussed also, a resolution may be present in either houses, then the discussion will start. You can say this is a procedure. Here I am just providing a rough procedure. I am not saying that this is the exact procedure. Okay, but this is just to get an idea. First, the provisions will be presented. Then discussion will be held. Then voting will be organized. Then passing or failure of resolution would be checked. And at last, bill go for presidential assent. Okay, so this is the procedure, or it is a rough procedure just to get an idea. First thing is that the provision will be presented in the house, whether in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha. Then the discussion will be held on the provision of that particular thing. All right, then what will happen after the discussion? The voting will be organized. Okay, and after the voting, passing or failure of solution that had been presented would be checked. If there are enough votes in a favor of the passing, the resolution would be passed. If there are not enough vote for the favor of the procedure, then the provision would be failed. Okay, and after getting passed by the houses, this provision will go for the presidential assent. Until or unless the presidential assent would be granted to the provision could not become an act. All right, that's the thing. So same thing is written down here. However, the bill may be passed by both the houses. Okay, remember, first by the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, or you can say the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, whatever. Okay, then it could only become the law once it gets the presidential assent. Until or unless president is not, until or unless president granting the assent to them, the bill will not become a law. He also performs the certain functions relating to the proceedings of the parliament. For example, he summons, he progress both the houses, he could dissolve the Lok Sabha, he address both the houses, he could issue the ordinances when the houses are not in a session, and so on. Okay, it means that these are some extraordinary, and exclusive powers granted to the President of India as an integral part of the Parliament. In this respect, the framers of the Indian Constitution relied on the British pattern rather than the American pattern. Why? Because the British pattern provides for the parliamentary form. Right? While the American pattern provides for the presidential form. Okay, so in Britain there is a parliament that consists of crown, who is king or queen, House of Lords, upper house, and House of Commons, the lower house. Okay, so basically if we talk about it, all right, so if we compare the Indian Parliament with the British Parliament, then what is here to know? The British Parliament having the crown, king or queen, then House of Lords, and House of Commons. Here President, Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha. Okay, so that is the difference between the composition of the houses, and the similarity is this: there is also the three divisions, and there is also the three divisions. So this is the similarity. But if we talk about the biggest difference, then the biggest difference is that the Indian Parliament is of republic nature, while the British Parliament is of monarch nature. Okay, so the same thing we had discussed while we were discussing about the salient features of the Constitution. Like if we talk about the head of the Indian state, then that will be the President of India. And we know the President of India is the position which is not a nominated position, which is not a hereditary position. This is basically an elected position. Okay, it means that whosoever will be holding the position of president in India, that person will be elected. While we talk about the British system, so the head of the state is crown, whether he is a queen or whether he is a king. All right, and in the monarch system there is no election. The position is of hereditary nature. Okay, so that is the biggest difference between the Indian Parliament and the British Parliament. The similarity is there. They are having the three divisions. All right. So this is the similarity. That is the difference. By contrast, the American president is not an integral part of the legislature. So that's why it is having the presidential form. Because here the executives are separated from the legislature, while both in Britain or India, the legislatures and the executives are interdependent on each other. Okay, so if we talk about the USA, the legislature, which is known as the Congress. Okay, now please do not get confused it with the Indian National Congress. Okay, because Indian National Congress, or INC in short, is the Indian National Political Party. But when we talk about the Congress, so Congress is the Parliament of United States of America. Okay, so basically that Congress in the USA is also based on the bicameral system or bicameralism. Okay, why? Because it consists of the Senate, the upper house, and the House of Representatives, the lower house. Okay, the parliamentary form of government emphasizes on the interdependence between the legislative and the executive organs, like I have told you. So that's why the President of India, who is an executive, is connected with the parliament system, which is the legislative of India. Hence, we have the president in parliament, like the crown in parliament in Britain. Okay, so if we talk about the president and the crown, so we know that they both are of the executive nature, and they both are connected with the parliament, which is of the legislature. Okay, but in the presidential form of government, on the other hand, they lays stress on the separation of legislative and the executive organs. Okay, hence the president is not regarded as the constituent part of the Congress or the integral part of the Congress. Okay, because the executive and the organs are separated here. Thereafter, if we talk about what is the composition of two houses in India, all right, so basically the first we have is the composition of Rajya Sabha. All right, and Rajya Sabha means the House of States, and this is an upper house also. So the maximum strength of the Rajya Sabha is fixed at 250. Okay, and then there is a division, like 238 are to be the representatives of the states and the unions elected indirectly, and the 12 are the nominated by the president. All right, like we could say, if we talk about the total strength or seats in Rajya Sabha, so these are fixed, means 250 seats. All right, out of this 238 are indirectly elected. Okay, which means that these 238 seats are basically open for election. However, indirect, and indirect election means when the general people like me and you could not participate in the votings. All right, so if there is indirect election, so there must be some you can say specialized electoral college for the elections, that we will see when we will go further. Till then, just remember that these 238 seats are basically open for the election, and the remaining remaining 12 seats are basically filled by the nomination. Okay, so these 12 seats are basically reserved for the nominations. Got it? That's the thing. So at present, Rajya Sabha has 245 members, 299 represents the state, 4 represents the union territories, and 12 are nominated by the president. The fourth schedule of the constitution deals with the allocation of seats in the Rajya Sabha to the states and the union territories, because we know when we talk about India, so India having 28 states, okay, and 9 union territories. So basically how these 238 seats would be divided between these 28 states and these 9 territories, that is basically decided on the basis of fourth schedule of the constitution, okay, through which the allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha decided. Okay, so students, basically in this lecture we have covered till here. In the next lecture we will start from here. Till then, just revise all the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture. Be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say thank you.